everyone, these are the decimal operations with focus on using the standard algorithm guided notes. Let's get started. Let's review adding and subtracting whole numbers using the algorithm. Vanessa earned $5,638 over the summer break, and Joe earned $432 over the summer break. How much total money did they earn? Set up and complete the addition problem. So Vanessa earned $5,638 and Joe earned $432. So when we add those together, we get $6,070. A student received the above word problem on a test and set up and completed the addition problem below. So they wrote 5,638, 432, and they got 9,958. Write an explanation to this student about why they did it incorrectly. Well, the student did not line up the place values correctly. They lined up the thousands with the hundreds, and that doesn't work. You need to line up the place values correctly. Aligning place values is essential when completing addition or subtraction problems. Let's solve a similar word problem, but this time using decimals. Natalie earned $45.32 this week, and Aaron earned $103.42 this week. How much total money did they earn? Let's set up and complete an addition problem to determine the total. Remember, aligning place values is essential. One strategy is to write the decimal first. This has been done in the space below. The decimal will be in the same position in the answer. Finish writing this problem and complete just as you would an addition problem with whole numbers. So notice that the decimal has been written all in a line. This is essential when you're adding or subtracting decimals. So they earned $45.32 and $103.42. Notice that my decimals are lined up. My ones, my tens, my hundreds, my tenths, and my hundredths. Everything is lined up. Now I can add normally. So 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 3 is 7, 8, 4, 1. Natalie and Aaron earned a total of $148.74. Let's do another word problem. Maria weighed 6.3 pounds at birth and Julia weighed 7.12 pounds at birth. How many total pounds did they weigh? So let's start by writing my decimals. So we have 6.3 and then we have 7.12. There's not a number here in the hundreds, so another strategy is to write a 0 as a placeholder in the blank spaces. So I'm going to add a 0 right there. Now I can add 0 plus 2, 3 plus 1, and 6 plus 7. So Maria and Julia weighed a total of 13.42 pounds. Subtraction will be set up the same way as addition with aligning decimals. Angela traveled 23.5 miles this weekend and Tom traveled 12.37. How many more miles did Angela travel than Tom? Remember some strategies. Write all your decimals first and write 0 in the blank spaces as placeholders. So the decimals are already written right here for this problem. Let's put in our numbers. So we have 231.5 and 12.37. Now, there's not a number right here in the hundreds, so I am going to add a 0 there. So everything's lined up. My tens, my ones, my tenths, hundreds, and then I have 100 right there. And if I want, I can also add a 0 right there to make it a placeholder. Now I'm just going to subtract accordingly. So we have 10 minus 7 is 3, 1, we have 9, 1, and 2. So 219.13. Angela traveled 219.13 miles more than Tom. Find the difference between 1.56 and 0.018. Let's start by writing my decimals. Now we're going to write in the numbers. 1.56 and 0.018. I'm going to add a 0 right there as a placeholder, and then I'm going to subtract. 10 minus 8 is 2, 4, 5, 1. So 1.542. Practice. Determine the sum or difference of the following numbers. Simplify. So I'm going to place my decimals first. Now I'll add the numbers. I'm going to go ahead and add some placeholders. And now I will add. So 56.191. Find the difference between 45.9 and 0.591. So same thing, I'm going to do my decimals first. Now let's put in the numbers. I'm going to add 0 placeholders, subtract. So the difference between those numbers is 45.309. Find the sum of 0.045 and 38.1. Let's write all my decimals first. Then I'll go back and add my numbers. There's my numbers, and let's add some placeholders. And then let's add the numbers together. So that is 38.145. Simplify 285.29 minus 3.82. Lining up my decimals, writing in the numbers, adding some placeholders, and subtracting. So the difference is 281.47. John spent $78.83 on groceries last week. This week, he spent $131.30. How much more did John spend this week than last week? So we want to find the difference between those numbers because it's asking how much more. So this will be a subtraction problem. Same thing, I'm going to set up my decimals. I'm taking 131.30 and subtracting 78.83. So John spent $52.47 more this week than last week. Laura is training for a marathon and needs to run 35.5 miles over 3 days. The first day she runs 10.2 miles. The second day she runs 12.3 miles. How many miles does she need to run the third day? Okay, so let's first figure out how many she has run already. So we were going to add 10.2 and 12.35. Same strategy of lining up the decimals and then adding some placeholders. So she has ran 22.55 miles so far. Now I'm going to subtract that from 35.5. So 35.5 minus 22.55, add a placeholder. So Laura needs to run 12.95 miles. The biggest takeaway from adding and subtracting decimals is that you need to line up the decimals. Now let's multiply decimals. We will start with 6.14 times 2.3. Multiply these numbers as whole numbers. 614 times 23. Do this on the space provided below. Okay, so eventually we're going to want to do this, but for now we're just going to treat them as whole numbers. So 614 times 23. So I'm going to do my normal algorithm. So 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. 6 times 3 is 18. Add my 0. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. And then 2 times 6 is 12. I sum those together and I get 14,122. To change 614 to 6.14, you need to divide by 100. So remember, when you're dividing by 10, it will move the decimal one time. Dividing by 100, you will move the decimal twice. So 614 to 6.14, the decimal had to move 2 times to get to 6.14. To change 23 to 2.3, you need to divide by 10. So 23, I just need to go over one spot, so that's why it's 10. Therefore, let's take the product of 614 and 23 and divide it first by 100, then by 10. Because I have to divide by 100 to get 614 to 6.14, and then I need to divide by 10 to get 23 to 2.3. Notice this is the same as dividing by 1,000. Dividing by 100 and dividing by 10 is the same as dividing by 1,000. 2 zeros, 1 0, so that's 3 zeros. So I got my solution of 14,122, and that comes from right there. And if I divide that by 1,000, that means I move my decimal over 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be 14.122. How many total digits are after the decimal numbers in 6.14 and 23? So if you look right here, there's 2 decimal places right there, and here there's 1 decimal place. So in total, that would be 3 decimal places. How many total digits are after 14.122? And there are also 3. Notice the number of total digits after the decimals in the factors and product are the same. And that will always be true. Since there's 3 decimal places there will be 3 decimal places in the product. Let's multiply 0.035 and 5.1. First, let's multiply these numbers as whole numbers. So we have 35 and 51. So let's multiply that like normal. So 1 times 5, 1 times 3, add your 0. 5 times 5 is 25, and then 5 times 3 is 15 plus 2 is 17. Add those, I get 1,785. To get 35 to 3.5, well, that's moving the decimal 1, 2, 3 spots. So that's the same as 1,000 because there's 3 zeros in 1,000. 51 to 5.1 would be 1 decimal spot. So that's 10 because there is 1 0 in 10. So dividing it by 1,000 and then dividing it by 10, that's the same as dividing by 10,000 because there's 3 zeros here, 1 0 there. So that's going to be 10,000. So I am going to move my decimal place 4 times. 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. 0.1785. 1,795 divided by 10,000 equals 0.1785. How many total digits are after the decimal in the numbers 0.035 and 5.1? So in the number 0.035, there are 3 decimal places, and in 5.1, there is 1. So there are a total of 4 decimal places. How many total digits are after 0.1795? Well, again, there are going to be 4 decimal places. Notice the number of total digits after the decimals in the factors and the product are the same. This will always be true. If you know the product of the whole numbers, you can count the decimals to determine the product of decimals. So it's telling me 412 times 63 equals 25,956. What would 4.12 times 0.63 be? Okay, so I am just going to rewrite the product of the whole numbers. So 25956, and then I'm going to count decimal places. Here there's 2, and here there is 2. So the product has to have 4 decimal places, 2 plus 2. That means my decimal is going to have to be right here, because that would be 4 decimal places right there. Okay, so 41.2 times 6.3. Again, let's just write the product of 412 times 63. Here there's 1 decimal place. Here there's 1 decimal place. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So in my answer, there's going to have to be 2 decimal places, which means the decimal is right there because that makes 2 decimal places. 0.412 times 63. Let's write down the product of 412 and 63 again. In fact, I'm going to write that on both of these. Here I have 3 decimal places. Here I have 0 decimal places. So that would be a total of 3 decimal places for the product of that. That would put the decimal right there because that gives me 3 decimal places. 412 times 0.63. Here there are 0 decimal places. Here there are 2. So that would be a total of 2 decimal places. So the decimal will go right there. 38 times 59, it tells me, is 2,242. I'm just going to go ahead and write that number all the way down. Now let's count decimal places. This one has 3, this one has 1. So the product will have a total of 4 decimal places. So the decimal will go right here. Now I'm going to slide a 0 right there in front of the decimal as a placeholder. So that will be the answer. This one right here, there's 1 decimal place here and 2 decimal places here. So the product will have 3 decimal places. So the decimal will go right there. 38 times 0.59. This has 0 decimal places. This one has 2. So that's a total of 2 decimal places. So that's the decimal right there because there's 2 decimal places. This one has 2. This one has 3. So that's a total of 5 decimal places. So let's see. If I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to have to go over one more. And I'm going to fix that because I'm not going to have enough room. Okay, let's count decimal places again. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to go over one more time and put the decimal. So I'm going to need to add a 0, then put a decimal, and then I'm going to add a 0 one more time as a placeholder. So this is going to be 5 decimal places right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's 5 decimal places here. So sometimes you will need to add zeros if you need to move your decimal over even more. Determine the product of the following numbers. 0.92 times 7.1. So let's first multiply them without the decimals. So we have 92 times 71. 92 times 71 is 6,532. Now let's go back and add my decimals. So I want to know 0.92 and 7.1. So that would be 2 decimal places here, 1 decimal place there, which is a total of 3 decimal places. So that would put my decimal right there because that would give me 3 decimal places. So the product of those two numbers is 6.532. 0.082 times 45.2. We're going to write those numbers without the decimals first. So we have 82 times 452. Multiplying those together, I get 37,064. Now let's go back and add the decimals. So it's 0.082 and 45.2. So that is 3 decimal places plus 1 decimal place. That's going to be a total of 4 decimal places. So 1, 2, 3, 4. My decimal is going to go right there. So 3.7064 is the product of those two numbers. Okay, 1.8 times 5.7. Again, let's multiply those numbers without the decimals. So it'd be 18 times 57. 18 times 57 is 1,026. Going back and adding the decimals, so it's 1.8 and 5.7. So it's 1 decimal here and 1 decimal there. That's a total of 2 decimal places. So my decimal is going to go right there because that's going to give me 2 decimal places. 33.2 times 2.8. So we will multiply 332 times 28 together. Okay, 332 times 28 is 9,296. Going back and adding my decimals, 33.2 and 2.8. So 1 decimal place here, 1 decimal place here. That's going to be a total of 2 decimal places. So 1, 2. My decimal point is going to go right there after the 92. So the product is 92.96. Now we will look at dividing decimals. Let's first analyze 4.55 divided by 0.35. Let's rewrite this division problem as a fraction. So we wrote it right here as a fraction. Multiplying the numerator and denominator by the same number keeps the value the same. So remember with fractions, I can multiply or divide actually the numerator and denominator by the same value and it will not change the value of the fraction. We will multiply the numerator and denominator by 100, which will give us whole numbers. So if I multiply 4.55 times 100, that moves my decimal to the right twice, and 0.35 moves it to the right twice as well. So now I have 455 divided by 35. Use long division to determine 455 divided by 35. Okay, so let's do that over here. So 35 goes into 45 once, multiply, subtract, 10 is less than 35. And that's good. So now I'm going to bring down my 5. 35 goes into 105 3 times. 35 times 3 is 105. And that's exactly. So 455 divided by 35 is 13. Therefore, 4.55 divided by 0.35 also equals 13. Because I multiplied them both by 100, it doesn't change the value of this. So if this is 13, then this will also be 13. Now let's look at 45.39 divided by 5.1. We will write this as a long division problem. Having our divisor as a whole number is easier with long division. So remember the divisor is the number that you are dividing by. Therefore, move the decimal in the divisor over until the decimal is a whole number. In this case, you will need to move the decimal to the right. How many place values? Okay, so I'm dividing by 5.1. That's my divisor. It's easier if we can get that to be a whole number. So we are going to move it over one spot because then it's going to say 51. So if I move it over one place value, this is the same as multiplying by 10, right? Because if I move it to the right once, that's multiplying by 10. To keep the problem the same, you will need to move the decimal in the dividend also over 1. So instead of 45.39, I'm going to move that over 1 as well. The decimal in the quotient will be in the same spot as the decimal in the dividend. Writing the decimal above before dividing is a good strategy. So I moved it over one spot. Now in my quotient, my decimal is going to be in that spot right there, just straight up. Use long division to simplify 45.39 divided by 5.1. So I've already moved everything over one spot, which is, remember, multiplying by 10, but that's not going to change my answer if I do it to both the dividend and the divisor. And I moved it straight up to right there. Now I'm going to do long division as I have already learned. So 51 doesn't go into 45, but it goes into 453 8 times. 51 times 8, 408. Subtracting that gives me 45. 45 is less than 51, so that's correct. Bring down my 9. 51 goes into 459. 9 times. 51 times 9 is 459. Subtract, and that gives me 0. So that means my quotient is 8.9. Use long division to simplify 80 divided by 0.25. How many place values do you need to move the decimal? So over here, if I have 80 divided by 0.25, I want this divisor to be a whole number. So that means I need to move it over 2 times, which is like multiplying by 100. So I need to move the decimal or multiply by 100 in my dividend 2 times. So 1, 2. So that's why I'm going to have to add zeros right here to fill in as placeholders. So it's really going to be 8,000 divided by 25. So how many place values do you need to move the decimal? You need to move it 2 place values. This is the same as multiplying by 100 because the 2 zeros, so 10 and then 100. 80 will become 8,000. You will need to write in 2 zeros. Write your decimal in the correct location in the quotient. So now my decimal is right here, so I'm going to bring it straight up, and my decimal will be right there in my quotient. Now we're going to continue doing long division to solve 80 divided by 0.25. 25 goes into 80 3 times. 25 times 3 is 75. Subtract. 5 is less than 25, so I did that correctly. I'm going to bring down my 0. 25 goes into 50 twice. 25 times 2 is 50. I subtract. 0 is less than 25 and greater than or equal to 0. And then I'm going to bring down another 0. 25 goes into 0 0 times. 25 times 0 is 0. And I'm left with 0. Now, I don't have any more to bring down. 8,000 divided by 25 is 320, which means that 80 divided by 0.25 is also 320. Use long division to simplify 7.044 divided by 1.2. How many place values do you need to move the decimal? So remember that I want my divisor to be a whole number. That's what I am dividing by. So I need to move this over 1 decimal spot. So I need to move that over 1 decimal spot too. So they are the same. So I need to move everything over 1 decimal place. That means my 1.2 is going to become 12, and my 7.044 is going to become 70.44, and I'm just going to write my decimal straight up for my quotient. Now let's divide. 12 will go into 75 times. 12 times 5 is 60. 70 minus 60 is 10. 10 is less than 12, so that's good. Bring down my 4. 12 will go into 104 8 times. 12 times 8 is 96. Subtract those, and I get 8. 8 is less than 12. Bring down the other 4. 12 goes into 84 7 times because 12 times 7 is 84. and that subtract and gives me 0. So 7.044 divided by 1.2 is 5.87. We are going to go beyond remainders and learn how to divide completely. We will start with the expression 8.2 divided by 0.25. How many place values do you need to move the decimal? So remember, my divisor needs to be a whole number, so I need to move the decimal over 2 places. You will need to add blank 0. Okay, so if I move 8.2 and over, so I'm going to go 1, 2, I'm going to need to add 1 0. So now the division problem reads 820 divided by 25. Continue working long division on this problem. So we've got it started here, and the decimal just went straight up for the quotient. So that's going to be the decimal for the quotient. 25 goes into 82 3 times. 25 times 3 is 75. 82 minus 75 is 7. 7 is less than 25. Bring down my 0. 25 goes into 70 twice. 25 times 2 is 50. 70 minus 50 is 20. 20 is less than 25. Now if I stopped right there, because I have nothing left to bring down, my solution would be 32 with a remainder of 20. That is true, but we're actually going to go beyond just remainders and learn how to keep dividing. Instead of using a remainder, let's bring down the 10th place digit. So the digit right here. Now we don't see anything there, which means that there is a 0. I'm going to bring down that 0 and keep going. 25 will go into 208 times. 25 times 8 is 200. And then subtract those and I get 0. Now I have no remainder. So once the remainder is 0, and there are no more non-zero digits to bring down, then you have divided completely. So I have a remainder of 0 and there's no more non-zero digits to bring down. So I am done. So completely divided, 8.2 divided by 0.25 is 32.8. Let's divide 10.8 divided by 2.4. How many place values do you need to move the decimal? So I have 10.8 divided by 2.4. I want the divisor out here to be a whole number, so I'm going to move it over 1 spot. So that becomes 24. Move this over 1 spot, and that becomes 108. So I need to move the decimal over 1 place value. Now the division problem reads 108 divided by 24. Continue working long division on this problem. And 24 goes into 108 4 times. 24 times 4 is 96. 108 minus 96 is 12. 12 is less than 24. Now it looks like I have no more digits to bring down, but this is not a 0 yet, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to add my 0 right here, place value, and bring that down. Now it's 24 goes into 120 5 times. 24 times 5 is 120. Subtract those and I get 0. Now I have a remainder of 0 and I have nothing else to bring down besides zeros. So that's going to be my solution, 4.5. Practice. Determine the quotient of the following numbers. Let's write out the problem using long division. We have 30.6 and I'm dividing that by 0.9. Now I'm going to move this decimal over 1 and this decimal over 1 to get that divisor to be 9, and I'm going to bring up my decimal. So my decimal will go there in my quotient. 9 goes into 30 3 times. 9 times 3 is 27. Subtract is a 3. 3 is less than 9. I have a 6 to bring down, so I'll bring that down. 9 goes into 36 4 times. 9 times 4 is 36, and that is 0. And I have nothing else to bring down, so I'm done. 30.6 divided by 0.9 is 34. 0.684 divided by 0.36. I want my divisor to be a whole number, so I'm going to move it over twice and move it over twice there and bring it straight up and then do my long division. 36 doesn't go into 6, but it does go into 68 one time. 36 times 1 is 36. 68 minus 36 is 32, which is less than 36. Bring down my 4 And 36 goes into 324 9 times, because I know 36 times 10 is 360. 36 times 9 is 324. Subtract those and that gives me 0. So this is a 0 and I have no non-zero digits to bring down, so I am done. 0.684 divided by 0.36 is 1.9. 315.9 divided by 1.3. I want my divisor to be a whole number, so I'm going to move it over one spot and move it over one spot and bring it straight up. 13 goes into 31 twice, which is 26. Subtract is 5. 5 is less than 13. Bring down my 5. 13 goes into 55 4 times. 13 times 4 is 52. Subtract, I get 3. 3 is less than 13. And then I have a 9 still to bring down. 13 goes into 39 3 times. 13 times 3 is 39, and that's 0. So I have 0 down there, and I have no non-zero digits to bring down, so I am done. 315.9 divided by 1.3 is 243. 21.5 divided by 0.2. I want my divisor to be a whole number, so move it over 1, and then bring it up, and then I divide. 2 goes into 2 once. Subtract, I get 0, bring down my 1. 2 goes into 1 0 times, so 0, subtract is 1, bring down my 5. 2 goes into 15 7 times, that's 14 minus 1. Now, that's not a 0 yet, so I'm going to bring down my 0. And 2 goes into 10 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10, and that gives me 0. So I have 0 down at the bottom right here, and I have no more non-zero digits to bring down, so I am done. 21.5 divided by 0.2 is 107.5. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you.